Hello, everyone. My name is Abby Trout. I'm the Curriculum Coordinator in CLA Career Services, and I'm very excited to talk to our employer partner today, Nou. So, Nou, thank you for being here. If you could start off by just introducing yourself, your role, and the organization that you work for.
Yes, thank you for having me here. I am excited to be here and meeting everybody. My name is Nou Chang. I work as the talent recruiter with the City of St. Paul. And actually, I graduated from the U of M and CLA, and my major then was communication studies. Never would I have imagined that I would be in an HR role. And even back then, it was not really on my radar, even though after the fact I found out that, yes, I did took some HR courses. Working for the City of St. Paul, actually, this is my 14th year with the City of St. Paul. And one of the reasons why I stay is they really do provide the great opportunities for me. But the thing that really resonates with me is the mission that we have is to build a St. Paul for everyone. And we're not saying it's for one group or two group, it's for everyone. And so it's working to get that to that space and that place.
Great, thank you. So, Nou, in your experience of interviewing candidates and applicants, how can students stand out in an interview?
That is a good question. And I was thinking about that to myself is how can you really stand out as a candidate when you're competing against other folks? And so actually a lot of that is before the interview even takes place is, do you understand what this position is asking of you to do? And so if you come prepared, that's going to make you stand out from all the others who are not prepared. How do you come up prepared? You are able to be ready to answer any questions that they throw at you, and be able to provide relevant examples that are maybe, two or more. And then also the confidence piece. I can't teach confidence, right? Because it's more of that soft skill. And so how you can show up being confident, as I mentioned before, is being prepared, knowing what may potentially be thrown away so that when you do answer the questions and you are providing relevant examples, that will show that you're confident and that you're prepared, and that's going to make you stand out for others who aren't able to maybe relate what they have with the current posting or the position that they're applying for.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some common interviewing mistakes that you see candidates make?
Some of the mistakes that they made that I have noticed is this broad statement. So some example might be, I'm a hard worker. Great that you are a hard worker, but I need to see how you are a hard worker. The other thing might be, I work with a lot of softwares, and then they forget to name the type of softwares, or if they do name it, I really don't understand or can see what capacity that they are working. So if they say that they work with Excel, are they just doing data entry, or are they building formulas, right? To try to do a financial worksheet. The other thing too is the short answers. I ask you a question and then you say, yes, I did that. Or the other thing is when they are completely caught off guard. And so they'll use a safe response answer. One of the basic one might be, the weaknesses or strength answer. And then they will say, well, my weaknesses is I work very hard, or I work too much and I can't stop working. And with that, you want to make sure that you understand what the question is being asked. And if you're not quite sure, you're not understanding it, maybe just take a moment to pause and reiterate saying, oh, is this what you're asking? Or, hey, can you please ask that question again? And that really just gives you a moment to say, okay, I may be needing some kind of process, and it's not going to be a lot of time, but it'll be just enough time for you to say, okay, let me refocus so that I can give the response that reflects what I truly intend to say.
Yeah, the details are really what help the employer know who the applicant is and, help to see that applicant in the work that the employer is looking for. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The details are key. Uh, Thinking about this current environment that we're all in, what are some important questions for applicants to ask when they're accepting a job offer?
Definitely, that is a tough one to really think about, especially this time. One of the basic one is, do they offer remote workspace? And some work you can do that, but some work you can't. If you're on the other side where you're like, you know, actually want to be in a space and not do the remote working, then you might want to ask yourself first is, what are you willing to do? The other thing that is also important to know is, how are they providing support to their employees during this time? And a lot of time, if you go onto the website, if you can't find the answer, then you will be asking that question. Otherwise, if you do find the answer and it doesn't quite answer what you're hoping to find out, so then that's the opportunity for you to ask some clarifying questions and say, hey, this is what I saw on your website. I just want to, you know, get clarification, you know, how does this work and stuff like that. So that therefore it shows that you are proactive and you are doing some research about the organization. So you do realize that there is a policy or some support in place to help employees through these times.
Yeah, it's such a great question, and almost like a different way to ascertain what is the company culture, how do they treat their employees. That's a great question to ask. Let's see, what tips do you have for students on how they can prepare for an interview?
Yes, I touched on this just during the first question here, right? And really, I share this with other students too. Google these questions. There are a lot of questions out there and a different wide variety. The more questions you have and the more that you're able to practice, so not necessarily just you know, spell out what you want to say, but really practice what you want to say, come prepared with what kind of scenarios you want to use and mix it up so that when you do show up to the interview, you are ready to respond to them and that you are not caught off guard. Something that might be very basic is eat something before you do an interview, because going to an interview on an empty stomach might be nerve-wracking, and then you're like, okay, I wish I would have ate something. You know, believe it or not, something, you know, eating a little bite here and there will help. The other thing too is really identify a mechanism. If you have anxiety issues or it becomes nerve-wracking, identify something that will help you calm those nerves. I even get them myself too. And one thing that really works for me is just taking a deep breath in and then letting it out slowly.
So important. And yeah, everything you said, I loved it in your first response when you talked about what you can do to stand out in an interview are all mostly things that you do before the interview. So yeah, practicing your sort of calming breathing techniques, practice having a bite to eat, you know, kind of taking care of yourself so you can show up well and show up in the way that you want to in the interview. So that's, thank you for those. Let's see. How did your liberal arts education, prepare you for working in the government career field?
You know, definitely another great question too. One that I don't really think about until I actually step into a talent recruiter role to be like, okay, how does that help me? And actually along the way, even before stepping into that role, it has really helped me in ways that I have not imagined. And so, you know, some of the basic stuff is the communication piece, right? You really get to work in a lot of groups, small and large. And so one of the things that actually I remember the most is when I was placed in a large group where we're doing marketing projects and we're competing against the other team. And so it's different from your small group because typically it's like 2 or 3 people, right? But when you have 10 plus students to try to coordinate and ensuring that everybody put some effort into it and not just one or two people doing most of the heavy lifting. And so that really taught me how it may potentially work in the workforce. And I am able to apply that and realize and recognize that people come from different perspective and background, and just knowing how can we get to a place where we are all in alignment with what we need to work towards to accomplish that goal. The other thing that actually is helping me a lot more recent is that research background, right? I'm currently doing classification and composition work. And so paying attention to details and asking questions, not just asking the questions, but asking the right questions to really understand what I'm looking at and what I would need to help me to complete with these particular, job studies.
Yeah, absolutely. All these skills that you're using either in big ways, small ways, perhaps things that were always a part of your job, or things that are more newer projects like the one you just mentioned, or, skills you're doing more currently, that kind of, you never know when it's gonna all those skills that you learned in your liberal arts education are gonna filter in, but you see those connections, and like you said, are like, oh, so glad that I had that to a starting point so that I can do this well. Very cool. My last couple questions are you open to students contacting you? And if so, what is the best way to reach you?
Yes, I always encourage students to reach out to me, whether it'll be on LinkedIn or through my email. And we also monitor the social media, which is through our Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And so if they do reach out to us that way too, if they saw something that's great, that maybe they met us at the job fair and they tag us, we'll be able to see that. And I will be able to see that too as well. So just different variety of ways to connect with me.
Yeah, and I follow your updates on LinkedIn. Yeah, and
Awesome.
I know I've messaged you on LinkedIn. So yes, it's a good that professional social media is a great option. Let's see. Does your organization currently have opportunities available, whether that's full-time, entry-level, internship, or other?
Currently, right now, we do have 2 full-time opportunities, which is engineer A2 and the accountant 2. We also have some temporary position that currently is posted on the website. One thing that you will want to look for is to see if they are accepting applications, so that when the position is ready to be filled, that they'll contact people. If you don't see that, then there is more than likely that there is a need to be filling that position sooner rather than later. But always check the website. If you have any questions, reach out to the person who is listed on that contact, and they'll be able to give you more information.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And lastly, Nou, any other general words of advice or encouragement for students this fall?
All right, definitely. You know what? When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, if you know exactly where you want to go, right? Whatever career it is that you choose, there will be a map that's already created to say, okay, this is the route you're going to take. This is what are the pitfalls and stuff like that. And so you would have a clear direction of where you want to go. But if you're like me, who didn't know what they want to do in the first place, there may not be a map, but the joy of doing that is you get to create your own map. You get to identify the pitfalls, and you get to share that with others and say, hey, this is the map that I created for myself. And it may have worked for me, it might work for you, but then you can either choose one that's already created, or you can choose to create your own. And it might take longer. It might feel like it's harder, but definitely it is yours, your own.
Well said. So well said. Thank you so much, Nou, for your time. We so appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me.